Hi, I'm Avianna. Welcome. This video is a little bit about a background of who I am and why I'm here doing what I do. And so I'll start at the beginning and actually go a little bit further back. So my parents were raised in pretty incredibly abusive households with a lot of alcoholism, working from a very young age, getting thrown out of their house, physical abuse, mental abuse, and really starting and working their way up from nothing and having children also at a very young age. When they had me, they really swore to do it different. Well, just like the pendulum swings also in the other direction, I was kind of like mission perfect. And so there was a lot of overprotecting, overcaring, a lot of pressure on me to be perfect. And of course, I'm deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for my parents and what they did and gave me as a childhood, and a lot of opportunities and so much support, considering that they were breaking generational abuse. And yet, every generation goes a step further. And so there was a lot of things that happened with good intentions, but that actually left a mark on me. So I learned to also take care of my parents' emotional state. I learned to really work hard to earn it, to be a people pleaser in order to feel safe. And what that ended up doing was I kind of lost connection to who I am. So a lot of my journey over the last few decades has been to actually just rediscover who I am. How did that kind of create my life? Well, when I was 17, I was finally kind of starting to stand up for myself and be like, no, I actually don't want to do that. Or talking back, like when my mom would call me a liar thinking that I did something, I'd be like, no, I really, really, really did not do that. And there was kind of like this general lack of trust, that I couldn't possibly be the good girl that I was actually being, right? So I was actually doing the things that they told me to do, and my mother couldn't believe me. And so this was like a big wound that happened for me. And when I was 17, instead of having this kind of like slow detachment that like gently growing out of the nest, because I wasn't just a pushover anymore, I actually ended up getting kicked out of my house or asked to not come back. And so for basically a year, I was homeless. I lived on my friends' couches. I was totally devastated. I had started going to university. I ended up needing to drop out of university and get a job. I was a professional dancer at that time. I ended up not being able to keep up with the demands while completely providing for myself. And yeah, so this was in Alaska when I was 17. And then, of course, I needed a year to get my feet underneath me again. And never felt like I quite recovered. And yet, I don't want to put everything on that, because there was definitely just programming from my childhood and also from past lives that just stayed with me because I didn't address them. I was kind of just in my film of, how it is. And I met a man from Germany, and I ended up moving to Germany when I was 19 and marrying him. Soon after marrying him, I realized this man is not who I thought he was. There was a lot of disappointment, a lot of misunderstanding, and feeling totally alone on the planet. Like, my family's far away, the relationship's not good there anyways, my friends are far away. My social communication skills were not so great. And yeah, I was just kind of alone in this new country with a husband that worked so much, and all I wanted to do was spend time with him. And that was the whole reason I moved to Germany. Yeah, so I kind of ended up throwing any amount of myself that I still knew uh, into the wind and just completely starting to chase him. And so he worked a whole lot building a skate park company, and I ended up working in the in the workspace with him, like with the drill and carrying this stuff and all this like really, really, really masculine work, waking up super early in the morning, working all the way until the end of the night, not having enough time for art, socializing, play, dancing, anything that actually brought me joy for most of my life. And so this went on for a few years, and I realized that I was slipping. I was so disappointed in myself because I could feel my potential. I could really feel like I am actually meant for more than this. But I couldn't figure it out. And I had so many things that actually needed to be worked on that I wasn't aware of. And so what ended up happening is I kind of was like, okay, well, if I can't make anything of myself, then I will just devote my life to my husband. And because he has a mission, he has a vision. And so I will just give my life to him. And it ended up that we had 2 beautiful children. But I skipped something. So after a couple years of being married, I was deeply unmet. I was quite sad, depressed, lonely. And my version of trying to take care of myself and to save the relationship was to open the relationship. So I'm not recommending this because what it ended up doing is drawing out, because we opened our relationship from a space of lack, and because from a space of disconnect and not being able to connect with one another on a deep and intimate level, we actually just extended this situation that was actually totally misaligned for over 7 years longer than if I had communicated, this isn't working for me, and really drawn a line in the sand instead of making huge compromises. And staying with a man that actually truly did not meet me. And of course, opening the relationship hurt him as well. And after I moved out years later and we separated in a heated conversation, he actually told me that that was the day that he fell out of love with me. This man is, in my opinion, a narcissist. I realized it first after I left the situation and started to get kind of clarity about what was going on, what was the dynamic in our relationship that was just totally not normal and not healthy. And so how did things progress? We opened our relationship, and then we ended up having 2 beautiful children. And my children really opened my eyes to how far I had allowed myself to kind of fall from what I used to be. I used to be such a joyful, bubbly being, truly from my heart, and yet it was more like a mask that I had carried now for many, many years. And when I saw my children and their purity and their connection to something beyond, I was like my heart burst open. I was like, I have to live for them. I have to show them beauty. I have to show them what this is about. And it can't be about what I'm living right now, because this feels so far away from what's true and what I knew deep inside is true. And so it took about 5 years of going really, really, really downhill. My husband working. He worked 80-hour weeks, a single mother, even though he provided, right? He provided. And he said, that's all I need to do, right? And so when he would come home, it would be like, I would continue to just be the mother. And yeah, our intimacy was horrendous. It was really awful. I was so often having sex when I really didn't want to, because I thought I felt obligated to. I felt um, like he's providing. So there was a lot of shame, a lot of guilting, a lot of like, you should be grateful for the life that you had, kind of the life that you have, kind of dialogue within our relationship. And that also mirrored things that I had been told in my childhood, because my childhood looked for my parents so much better than what they had had, and it validly, like truly so. And yet this kind of cage of having to be happy at all times really allow did not give me the field to actually learn how to meet my emotions. So I learned how to suppress my emotions. I learned how to put on a good face. I learned how to function even though I felt completely broken inside. And this is what happened then in my marriage. And so what did I end up doing? I ended up turning to alcohol. I turned to cannabis. Drastic, crazy mood swings of being totally energetically, mentally numbed out, like not able to be present at all. So just functioning, like cooking the food, cleaning the house, but like no sense of spirit or heart connection anymore, because my heart was just in so much pain that whenever I had space to tune into it, I just fell apart completely. And it got really bad. The last 2 or 3 years before I left my husband, I actually spent a significant amount of time considering how I would like to kill myself, if I would like to jump off of a high building, if I would like to drown, if I would like to drive at high speed into a tree. That was one of my favorites. When I was cooking dinner, I remember like having this battle within myself, because I would have this nice big long knife, and I really had this urge to just drive this knife into my stomach. And so even cooking dinner was like this massive act of strength to just not leave this planet, and to like look over at my kids playing and to look over at my kids playing and to just gather all the strength that I had to be there and to know, okay, I'm not a perfect mother. I'm really not a perfect mother. And there was a lot of self-hatred going on with that, because again, I could feel my truth. I could feel I am actually so much better than this. I felt so lost. I felt so broken. And it was one particular day I was driving in the car alone, and there was this one particular tree that really called my name, and I drove past it, and I swear I couldn't drive the car anymore. I was so terrified because I had literally just barely made it past this tree. And I finally opened up to my mother, who had no idea how unhappy I was. And she was like, the worst kind of mother is a dead mother. And so this is exactly what I needed to hear, though, because I finally took myself to therapy. I finally started getting help. I finally, I realized that I couldn't get any lower than this. And so, yeah, I started going to weekly therapy in a group setting, which was so beautiful and really opened my eyes. And in this group setting, I learned a foundational shift for me. And this might not be applicable to everybody, right? Not everybody goes that far or has that path. But I really needed to learn that it was okay for me to have needs. It was okay for me to have desires that were purely mine, that were not for anybody else. And that did not make me a horrible or selfish person. And that this is actually why we're here, is to live, to be alive. And yeah, that's what motivated me, is to really think, okay, what brings me to life? I actually love helping people. it really truly touches my heart. Um, and so I thought, okay, what can I do for myself that will allow me to help other people? So I decided to go to a 10-day retreat to learn Thai yoga massage. It was my first time being gone for longer than a few hours in 5 years. I left my 2 children with my husband, who is a wonderful father, just not a very great husband, in my opinion, from me. I went there and I actually ended up meeting my soulmate. And and because I had an open relationship and because he had also an open relationship, and his marriage was falling apart just by chance in that moment, that we kind of merged together and had a beautiful 10 days. And throughout those entire 10 days, I was like, let's just enjoy our time together. But by the end of those 10 days, we were deeply, deeply, deeply in love. And it was so obvious that there was a connection that had gone beyond anything that I had experienced in my marriage over the last 13 years. And so, but I'm an incredibly devoted person, and I wanted to keep my promise and my intention, because the love that I felt for my ex-husband had been so beautiful at the beginning. So I went back to my ex-husband and I said, look, I've touched love. I've experienced love the way I've wanted it with you all of these years. And yet, I feel like I don't matter to you. I feel like you don't care if I'm here or not. And if I'm going to stay here, then I need you to start meeting me. I need you to start going to therapy with me. I need you to start somehow opening up, communicating with me, and showing me that our love is important, because I will not survive living this way for much longer. And he said no. He said, no, I'm not willing to meet you. I'm not willing to change. I'm not willing to go to therapy with you. I'm not willing to talk with you. And it was a few conversations after that where he actually revealed to me that he hadn't been in love with me since even before we had children. And so you can imagine that over the course of these years of actually trying to create intimacy and love with my husband, that my heart had broken many times. I had been unmet so many times. And because of my programming, I always made it my fault. It was always, I'm wrong, I'm ungrateful, I'm doing something wrong, I'm broken. And society, it didn't help, because society was all around me saying like, oh, you've got the house, you have the kids, you go on vacation, you eat the organic food, you have 2 cars, you wear beautiful clothes, you're a model. Yeah, I was a model. And you must be so happy. And really, I was far from anything like happy. And yet to be surrounded by people and society saying, this is what it means, this is a recipe, this is how you create happiness for yourself, and then to not be happy, even though you're so privileged, right? When I would think about the poverty and the suffering all across this planet and the privilege that I have as a woman in this country, I felt so much shame. Felt so much shame. Like, why can't I just be grateful? Why can't I just be happy? Right? Like totally bonkers. And so then, therapy, and then I met my soulmate, and then I went to my husband, and it was kind of like this last thing. And he said no. And so then I said, okay, I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. And that was about 3.5 years ago. And I'm still not divorced, because his idea of us separating means he gets to keep everything and I get to just start over again. But I'm not going to allow that to happen. Yeah, so there I am. That's me right now, today. And my journey, why am I always so leaning into joy, connection, community, feminine energy? Well, because I truly believe that what made me so sick was the pressures of the machine, of the system that we live in, that's really putting so much pressure on us, so much performance pressure, has lost connection to the aspects of life that really nourish our souls. Um, Friendship, connection, time to rest, time to love, time to create art, music. And everybody thinks that these things are a luxury, but I think they're a basic human need. And clearing out the blockages, the programming, the beliefs. I had so many layers. And that's why I had to go all the way down to the bottom of the darkest, darkest valley to be able to wake up. And once I woke up, it's the last 3 years have been so intense, Um, Personal work, sitting in circle, meditating, doing deep personal inner journeys, getting the support, finally creating community around myself to support me, to meet me, to know who I really am. People that I love, people who love me back in a true and touching way. And of course, the relationship with my beloved, with Winfried, Vinny, has just been totally inspiring and mind-blowing. And I know that this is possible for every being because we all have hearts. We are all here to love. And we are all coming from the same source of energy. And so once you clear the blockages, there is nothing else but to become love. There is nothing else but to become joy, to become life itself, coursing and blossoming and radiating out full force. Like there's no time like now to just be as radiant and joyful as you possibly can be. And I know there's those beliefs that say, not yet, you're not qualified, you're not good enough, you're unworthy, you don't deserve it yet, you're broken, right? You're wrong. You're greedy if you want more than what you have, or anything like that. I know them all. I know them all, and I know what it feels like to dissolve those, to integrate them, to soften how you perceive yourself, and so that you can be kind not only to yourself but to the people around you, so that your nervous system can come into a state of peace and not have to live in a state of panic or having to avoid life in order to feel safe. Life is a wild ride. Oh my God, right? Everybody has a story. Everybody's a cosmos of breathtaking experiences, right? And so this is why this is my mission. My mission is to help people come back home, to come back to themselves, to realize their strength, to realize their beauty, to realize how exquisite life is actually meant to be. It's not meant to be a rat race. It's not meant to be a survival of the fittest. It's not supposed to be a competition. Who's the biggest, baddest, bestest, richest, hottest biatch on the planet. It's here we are, humans. Here we are creating this planet. This experience is a creation of our choices. And I truly believe that when people come back to their hearts and they feel safe and they feel like they're allowed to use their voices, not with force, not with aggression, not going to war. This is old. This is so old, and it's so not necessary, because we have the capacity to transform and melt walls with the power of our love, right? On many different levels. And I know when you look in the news, there's like so much going on. There's so much going on, and it's so horrendous. And I used to carry that weight, right? I used to carry it and I used to let it crush me, but then I was also giving my life force energy to that frequency, right? So the joy, your love, your ecstasy, your pleasure, your dreams, this is the rebellion of this darkness that we're in for so many years.